fire story is already disappearing from headlines and news outlets. It will end up as another unsolved mystery with unanswered questions remaining forever. Before it does, we need to keep exploring all possibilities of what may have actually taken place, which will lead us to the question, do you believe it's all just a coincidence? Only 4 months before the fire, we saw this.
If you happen to see green lasers in the sky, not to worry, it's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers conducting coastal surveys. And they're being done using a contracted aircraft equipped with a light detection and ranging system. The lasers are used to measure distance. Residents near Oahu South-facing shores between Barbers Point and Diamond Head might see those broad beams of green light across the night sky. It'll happen between midnight and 5 a.m. from Friday, April the 28th through the 30th. Officials say brief exposure to the light is not harmful to the unprotected eye.
Matt Wallace tweeted, should Elon Musk release all the information X has on the Maui fires? Just imagine if all of Elon's satellites floating around out there in space accidentally captured something we all were not supposed to see.
So why does this make sense? Why am I so excited about this program, aside from the fact that lasers and ATVs are awesome? It also makes great business sense. Very smart for business as well, because when you think about it, one little laser blast is probably about, guesstimating about $1.
Think of it like a welding torch being put on target, but from many hundreds of meters away.
Operationally, it works just like a laser pointer. There's a chamber inside with special materials that release photons.
I mean, even President Biden's tweet used a very interesting choice of words, saying they were laser-focused when referencing the Maui fire. Just in case you didn't catch his tweet, he repeated it out loud again this week.
I remain laser-focused on recovering and rebuilding efforts in Maui. We were out there, and many of you were there as well. It's devastating what happened.
Do you believe him now? If the power lines didn't start the fire, what did? Things certainly just keep getting more coincidental in Maui. Today we're learning that Mayor Rick Bisson was not involved in Maui County's decision to sue Hawaiian Electric because his daughter, Sable Bisson, works for the utility on the island. Bisson's spokesperson, Mahina Martin, also worked for HECO on Maui for a decade. Take a look.
Agent Investigates has learned Mayor Bisson was not involved in Maui County's decision to sue HECO, and that's because his daughter, Sable Bisson, works for HECO on Maui.
The mayor and his administration now won't answer any more questions about HECO.
The mayor actually did not make that decision. He was conflicted out.
On Tuesday, after more dodged questions,
I'm not sure who's in charge. I'm not sure who's in charge. I'm not sure who is in charge.
Survivors of the deadly blaze now have one more thing to worry about, as EPA will spray an eco-friendly material to prevent ash from Maui fires from spreading. This work will be performed in stages as the removal of hazardous materials is completed. But don't worry, the EPA says it's non-toxic, biodegradable, and safe for animals, plants, and marine life. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I made a mistake. There are actually 2 things to worry about.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has begun cleaning up hazardous material from homes destroyed by the fires. Many are wondering when the next phase will begin.
According to the EPA, they can access properties without the homeowner's permission to get hazardous materials out.
Just to add a little more relief to the good people of Maui, they can now sleep better at night knowing that Hollywood has finally come to Hawaii.
2 of the biggest celebrities on the planet, Oprah and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, are teaming up to help Maui.
We were so concerned about what was happening in Maui that we were texting back and forth, and I read this article that Dolly Parton had given money in her community, and I said, I think this is the answer. You said, I think that's the answer.
I said, I love it.
And so we have created the People's Fund of Maui that will put money directly in the hands of the people who need it right now. So if you send a donation, just click where you see below and send a donation. That money is going to go to one of many residents who have been displaced in Maui. We guarantee.
Okay, I know a lot of people out there, as Oprah and I have been finding, are just having a hard time trusting where the money goes. What organizations should I send money to? How can I help? In this case, the fund that we created with a lot of hard work from a lot of hardworking people who all care about these people of Maui, as Oprah was saying, it is a clean, direct from you, directly to their hands, right away with some real immediacy, because as we're finding, as you guys around the world know, with disasters like this, the number one need is money.
Is money. In hand. And so people being able to have their own agency, being able to make decisions for themselves about what they need and what their family needs, that's our goal, is to get that to the people now. And so we appreciate any support you can give all the people who are calling me and texting me and messaging me and saying, what do I do? What do I do? This is what you do. The People's Fund of Maui.
Maui residents who lost their homes to the Lahaina fire are now eligible to receive $1,200 per month, thanks to The Rock and Oprah. Many people are talking after hearing Joe Biden's latest update, where he may have unintentionally slipped when speaking about the Maui fire.
To that end, when I was on the island last week, I appointed Bob Fenton, one of the nation's leading emergency managers, and I mean that's not hyperbole, who's been on the ground in Hawaii since before the fires erupted as our Chief Federal Response Coordinator to lead our long-term recovery on Maui.
Yet another incredible coincidence. One of the nation's leading emergency managers was on the ground in Hawaii since before the fires erupted. Didn't they also hire some 60-plus insurance claims adjusters for specifically that area only a few weeks before the fires? They're telling all of us the fire would have been so much worse had the leading emergency management officials not been so close by to it. But it seems to have made it so much worse, doesn't it? Joe Biden announced the U.S. Department of Energy will provide $95 million to improve Hawaii's electric grid.
Today, I'm announcing that $95 million from the bipartisan infrastructure law is on the way to Hawaii to harden the ground power, harden the grid.
Journalist Peter Doocy asked the White House press secretary about Maui specifically, and here's what happened.
Okay, and it seems like the hurricane response so far is robust. Did you guys realize that the initial Hawaii wildfire response was not that good? Or is it just easier for people to get help from the White House when the president is not on vacation?
So the premise of your question and the way you pose your question, I disagree, just for the record. So if you were to do your reporting and speak to the governor of Hawaii, the senators of Hawaii, the folks on the ground, they would say that the president reacted in record time when it came to dealing with the wildfires, when it came to dealing and making sure that they got everything that they need on the federal level to deal with what was going on the ground. Let's not forget, there were more than 600 federal employees on the ground already to assist with the wildfires in Maui. So your question is wrong, is flawed in many, many ways, and I would advise you to go speak to the governor and the local and state officials in Hawaii.
Biden couldn't resist the chance to bring up his small kitchen fire once again.
I didn't do anything like that, but lightning struck my house. We had to be out of that house for about 7 months. It was repaired because so much damage was done to the house, and half the house almost collapsed.
President Biden is blaming the Maui fire on climate change.
I don't think anybody can deny the impact of the climate crisis anymore. Just look around. Extreme heat, significant wildfires have caused significant damage like we've never seen before, not only throughout the Hawaiian Islands in the United States, but in Canada and other parts of the world. We've never seen this much fire. We're in a situation where, how can I say it? There's still some deniers out there in terms of whether or not climate change has anything to do with any of this. And we're going to need a whole hell of a lot more money to deal with emergency appropriations, to deal with all you're taking care of.
Joe Biden is also funding a new COVID vaccine that works this time, and it's for everybody to get.
In fact, I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to the Congress a request for additional funding for a new vaccine that is necessary, that works. And tentatively, not decided finally yet, tentatively it is recommended that, would likely be recommended that everybody get it, no matter whether they got it before now.
When updated COVID shots become available in mid-September, we've heard from the FDA and CDC. They announced this last week that there will be new vaccines next we're in September, next month, mid-September. We'll be encouraging all Americans to get updated COVID vaccines, and also let's not forget the RSV. Let's not forget the influenza shots as well. All are very critical and important. So we'll be encouraging Americans to do that. And vaccinations, as we all know, as you've heard us say from here, against COVID-19 remains the safest protection for avoiding hospitalization, long-term health outcomes, and death. And so this is why we're going to encourage Americans to make sure they keep up to date with their vaccine.
On August 7th and 8th, Hawaiian electric power lines caused fires in 2 different areas near Lahaina.
August 7th at 10:47 p.m., a day earlier, you hear a witness describe a flash that might be a tree falling on a power line.
It's windy, and then there's a flash, and I think that's when a tree's falling on a power line. The power goes out.
One expert saying those videos taken in upcountry Maui show the flames spreading and may be the first evidence of downed power lines igniting a fire.
Oh, this is live right across the street from my house. Freaking power line just went down. I hear a pop coming from across the street. As soon as I hear the pop, all I heard is like electrical, like just going on the ground there. Look, there's a power line right there. See it right there? That's the power line that started from up the road there. And all of that is still burning. From there, to me, it simulated a fuse, like somebody lit a fuse for a firework.
Experts say these 2 fires slightly spread, causing the massive wildfire that destroyed the entire town. And within days of these 2 videos being shared, Hawaiian Electric shares lost half of their value, and dozens of Maui residents are now filing a class action lawsuit against them for being responsible for the fire. The company had tried cutting corners when it came to safety, and now it looks like they're going to be paying a whole lot more than $190 million anyways. And you would think that a massive company like this trying to cover up its responsibility for a wildfire would be the worst scandal to come out of all of this. But you would be wrong, because it gets a whole lot worse.
One of the scariest things about the Hawaii wildfire is just how quickly it spread, by 1 mile every minute. Once the fire reaches towns like Lahaina, it moves so quickly that there was little to no chance anyone could outrun it, which is why so many people ended up in the ocean to try to escape it.
Meanwhile, harrowing footage has emerged of a group of people forced to escape into the sea as the fires erupted all around them on Tuesday night.
With the fire spreading so quickly, every single second counts. Knowing about the fire a minute earlier could save dozens of lives. Unfortunately, with the power lines either failing or setting on fire, Hawaii's emergency text alert system failed. By the time the text came through telling people to evacuate, it was already too late. The fire had reached the town. If only there had been some way to warn Maui and Lahaina residents of the approaching blaze. Some sort of warning system that didn't rely on cell service. Except, there is an independent warning system that could have gotten people out of their homes earlier. It was just never used. As an island state, Hawaii has more than 400 hazard sirens all across the islands, the largest network in the world. According to the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, the sirens are there to warn people of all sorts of disasters like tsunamis, wildfires, flooding, and terrorist attacks. 80 of these sirens are located on Maui, and many of them are in or around Lahaina. But when it came time to warn people about the fires, the alarms never went off. Instead, the only warning people got of impending doom was a massive cloud of black smoke over the town. But by then, it was already too late for many people. People were furious. Weren't the sirens there for a reason? Why didn't they use them if they knew there was a fire coming? What was the point of putting up all these sirens if you were never going to use them? It turns out the sirens never being used is all thanks to one guy, Maui Emergency Management Administrator Herman Andaya. According to him, he never approved the sirens being used because he believed that people would think it was a tsunami warning and that they would head to the mountains, which would have been directly into the fire.
Brush fire in Kaanapali, which is just north of Lahaina town where the main fire was, and they sounded the alarms. Now, I just made a video a couple days ago about how sounding the alarms would have been helpful during the Lahaina fire, and the government claimed that if they sounded the alarms, people would run into the fire up the mountain because, according to the government, the public was trained to think it was a tsunami. And even when they opened up their doors and they saw fire and smoke, billowing smoke, and smelled the smoke and heard the fire and felt the heat, even then, somehow they would run up the mountain and jump into the fire because they thought a tsunami was coming, which I think is a ridiculous idea. And apparently they decided it's a ridiculous idea too, because they reversed themselves and sounded the alarms for this fire. So not sure why they changed their minds, but guess how many people went out their front doors and jumped into the fire because they thought there was a tsunami? 0. So apparently many of us were right about this, but sadly that doesn't help anyone who died in the Lahaina fire.